Jess is a single mother who has to take care of her autistic son, Tommy. Jess looks annoyed when her son makes a mess by spilling paint on the floor. While Jess is cleaning it, her doorbell suddenly rings. Nevertheless, she sees no one upon coming outside. That day, Jess is invited by her friends to go on a trip. She gets ready to go on the vacation with Greg at the harbor. She also invites Tommy to come with her while preparing her luggage. Greg is preparing their boat, Triangle, to set sail. After that, two old friends named Sally and Downey also join the party. Sally also invites her best friend, Heather, to be introduced to Greg. However, Greg doesn't seem to enjoy her presence because he doesn't want any strangers there. Not long after, Jess comes with a man named Victor. Seeing her arrival, Greg immediately greets her and asks her how she is. However, it is Victor who answers and says something is wrong with Jess. Strangely, Jess hugs Greg and says sorry. Greg is confused because they haven't met for so long and Jess doesn't say anything. On that sunny day, they pull the anchor and decide to start their voyage. Halfway through the cruise, Greg asks Victor why he has said something is wrong with Jess. Victor explains that yesterday, Jess promised to come with her son. But, when he asks where her son is, Jess says that her son is at school even though it is Saturday and all schools should be closed. After a few hours of journey, everyone seemed very happy while chatting with each other. Greg then asks Jess how Tommy is. Casually, Jess says that Tommy is fine, same as usual. Even so, Greg is still curious about what makes Jess so uneasy. After a few hours, suddenly the wind stops blowing which makes their boat unable to move. At the same time, they see a black cloud like a storm from the distance moving closer to their position. Seeing that, Greg attempts to establish communication with another Coast Guard. Surprisingly, he receives an emergency radio message from another ship instead. A woman on the ship claims that she is being hunted by an assassin. Greg also asks about her position but unfortunately, the connection is lost. They get even more panicked when they see the storm that has begun to approach them. Therefore, they all prepare to put on life jackets for their safety. The situation is very tense when a storm hits them with such force that their boat capsizes. Fortunately, they are still able to survive the terrible storm. But, they lose one of their members, Heather. They look desperate because they can't do anything on their overturned boat. Unexpectedly, they see a large ship named Eel is sailing closer to their position. They are very grateful that they finally have the chance to save themselves. With hope, they wave at someone peeking at them from the ship. When the ship is near, they gratefully board the ship through the steps. They also look for the captain or anyone there to thank them. Jess is the only one who feels that there is something strange with the ship, and Jess' feeling is proven to be true as there is no one there. While searching, Jess says that she feels as if she has been in this place before. They also see a history board about this ship that has been sailing since 1932. When they gather at the L crossroads, suddenly they hear the sound of keys falling and people running. Hearing that, Victor chases after the source of the sound. Surprisingly, he finds a photo of Tommy, house keys, and Jess's car keys lying there. Victor takes it and gives it to Jess. Jess then wonders why it is there, even though she is convinced that it has sunk with their boat earlier. Continuing their search, they enter the dining room which is neatly arranged with a large amount of food and drink. Suddenly, Jess sees a mysterious figure running down the hall. Victor chases the mysterious figure, Greg and Jess follow him, while Downey and Sally stay in the dining room. When Greg and Jess are looking for Victor, they both hear the sound of the shower pouring water from room 237. However, when they enter it, no one is there, but there are bloodstains on the sink mirror that says go to the theater. A few moments later, Jess states to Greg that she feels bad for being on the ship. The debate even involves Jess's personal life and she is reminded of her son she misses. Meanwhile, Victor continues to search for the mysterious figure in the passenger rooms, but still can't find it. On the other hand, Downey and Sally walk down the hall to the passenger room. Suddenly, they see bloodstains on the floor and decide to follow the trail. The bloodstain continues until it ends up in the theater room. While in the dining room, Jess doesn't see anyone there, instead a large amount of food they see before turns rotten. Not long after, Victor comes all blooded due to the injury on the back of his head. Seeing that, Jess approaches him but he instead attacks Jess by strangling her neck, saying that Jess has tried to kill him. Jess tries to save herself by pressing his scar until he dies. Jess panics and goes into the theater room. When she arrives, she sees Downey and Sally holding Greg who has been shot. Surprisingly, Sally also accuses Jess of shooting Greg. Of course, Jess denies the accusation as she hasn't done anything. However, they don't believe it and say that Jess has told them to go to the theater earlier. During the argument, Downey and Sally are suddenly shot from above by a masked shooter. Jess tries to save Sally but when she pulls Sally out, Sally gets shot again and she dies. Now, Jess is the only one alive and she can't help but leave them and run away. Jess is hiding in a kitchen and sees someone is about to kill her. As the figure leaves, Jess rushes outside and looks for help. Suddenly, Jess is attacked from behind by the masked shooter and falls. Jess is so scared because she is about to be shot, but Jess manages to block the shooter and tries her best to run away. The shooter runs out of bullets and instead throws Jess with the rifle. In the middle of her escape, Jess sees an axe that can be used for self-defense. Sure enough, there is a great fight and Jess finally manages to dominate. She asks who the person behind the mask is. However, the shooter doesn't take off the mask. Instead, the shooter says this is the only way to survive and Jess has to kill them all in order to get back to her son. Since Jess doesn't understand what the masked shooter means, she pushes the shooter off to the open sea. After starting to feel safe, Jess suddenly sees something unbelievable. Bewildered, Jess looks at her friends as well as herself on the capsized boat, just as in the earlier scene, trying to call for help due to the big storm. Inside the ship, Jess hears voices of her friends as well as herself who has just boarded the ship. While hiding, Jess even hears all of their conversations which are the same as what she has talked with them before. Afraid, she accidentally drops her key from her pocket on the floor and runs away. The sound is actually what Victor has heard upon their first arrival before. Jess runs to room 237 for fear of being seen by the five of them. In the room, she recalls the bloodstains written on the sink mirror. Afterward, Jess runs quickly into the dining room. When they arrive, Jess is hiding while watching them. Thereafter, she runs away again heading out because she is seen by herself there. While out, Jess sees Downey's corpse floating in the sea being gnawed at by a flock of birds. At that moment, Victor gets off the ship and meets Jess there. However, Victor is a little surprised to see Jess get here so quickly, not knowing that she is the original Jess from the first arrival. Wanting to let him know the truth, Jess tells Victor about Downey's corpse floating in the sea. However, the corpse has disappeared in an instant so Victor doesn't believe her words. Jess continues to explain the truth, but she accidentally pushes him and injures his head. Turns out, Jess was also the one who had injured Victor before, and his blood trail was seen by Downey and Sally in the hallway. At the same time, Jess frantically flees to the bottom floor. There, she sees lots of warnings, saying if they board, kill them all. After writing the same thing down, she realizes that the many writings on the scattered papers are her handwriting, making her even more stressed. Missing her son, she sees the necklace containing a photo of him. However, the necklace falls from her hand and joins the pile of the same necklaces down there. This means that she has experienced the incident many times too. She concludes that to get off the ship, she is required to kill everyone there and then prevent her real self and friends from boarding the ship by changing all the events there. Now knowing what to do, Jess takes a rifle and on the way, she meets Victor again and assures him that she doesn't want to hurt him. Thereafter, Jess heads into the dining room and meets the second Jess who has just boarded the ship. Jess points her rifle at her but she doesn't seem to have the heart to kill herself and in the end, the second Jess runs away. The event at the theater repeats itself when Jess goes to check on her friends. There, Greg is shot dead. Knowing that her other two friends are next, Jess tries to save Downey and Sally who were shot dead in the theater before. Downey and Sally manage to survive, while Jess has a shootout with the masked shooter. Then, Jess catches up to Downey and Sally who have fled. Upon meeting, Jess gives Downey and Sally her rifle to protect themselves both and insists on not trusting anyone. Subsequently, Jess goes for some time to pick Victor up. However, Victor is no longer there, as if someone has thrown his body into the ocean. Then, Jess is about to head back to Downey and Sally who are waiting for her. However, she is too late as Downey and Sally are approached by the masked shooter who turns out to be the wicked Jess from the past. Wicked Jess invites the two to room 237, saying that they can survive there. However, she tries to kill the two in hope of escaping the endless loop. Sally manages to survive but is injured. Upon running away, she meets the real Jess and is frightened of her, not knowing that she is not the masked shooter. She escapes to the ship's control room and calls the security guard, but she is connected to the other Greg who is still on their original boat, Triangle. Turns out, she was the dying girl that called Greg's radio in the first event before Triangle capsized. Still trying to flee from Jess, Sally climbs onto the balcony and joins the many corpses of herself lying on the ground as her condition worsens, and she dies. Simultaneously, Jess sees her wicked version fighting the other version of herself that just got on board. The real Jess is aware of the recurrence of the incident when she and her friends are about to escape here. Jess, who is on the top deck, sees the group that has just boarded. She goes to the corner and sees that their capsized boat is left behind again. This means that Jess can't use it to save herself and meet her son. Jess is watching her other self trying to convince Victor of what is going on and also accidentally killing Victor. Afterward, Jess goes downstairs and sees Downey's corpse. Using Downey's blood, Jess writes "Go to the theater" on the sink mirror and then throws Downey's corpse into the sea. So indirectly, all of the things that she has found weird was her own doing. Jess now completely understands the time loop that is happening. She has to kill everyone here to rewind time so that later there will be someone again screaming to be saved on this ship, which is her and her friends who have just arrived. That way, Jess will be able to use the boat to go to land and be reunited with her son. On the other hand, Greg has just boarded the ship and realizes the masked shooter is actually Jess. Jess has no choice but to shoot Greg down. Then, Downey and Sally come and Jess shoots them too. It happens again when the real Jess, now wearing a mask and rifle, chases after the new Jess. During the fight, Jess falls into the sea. After falling, Jess is washed ashore. She runs as fast as she can to her house, to meet her son. Upon arriving, she is shocked to see the other version of herself living with Tommy. However, this version of Jess is so impatient as she scolds Tommy a lot. Therefore, Jess rings the doorbell and goes around the back of the house. She sneaks into the house and beats the impatient Jess to death. She stores the corpse in a bag piled with several clothes. After that, Jess calms the hysterical Tommy down and promises not to be rude to him. Subsequently, Jess puts the bag in the car trunk and leaves with Tommy. On the way, they accidentally hit a bird. When Jess is about to dispose of the bird's corpse, she sees a pile of similar bird corpses there. Upon continuing their journey, Jess is distracted by the crying Tommy and they are hit by a truck. Unfortunately, even though Jess survived, her son died. It's as if she were just a passerby and not the driver. At the end of the story, she is offered a ride and decides to go to the harbor. When they get there, Jess meets her friends who are still alive and well. She once more hugs Greg and apologizes to him, just like in the beginning. Jess walks towards the triangle once more, realizing that she can't escape the loop no matter what she does. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel out. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.